Hello, and welcome all. I'm one of your candidates for the position of mayor for the City of Moncton, New Brunswick in 2026. It's time for me to take off this armored suit and set aside my other alter egos, known as Eco Prime, Captain Patriot, and Captain Canada. For those unique titles have been given to me by some of our very young citizens over the past decades, as well as a great many elder residents and business people that are no longer with us. Those personas have been used over the last 4 decades in order to continue to bring attention to the extensive works of the Eco Guards organization's 1987, where we strive to maintain some sort of true eco balance within our city, while also taking on so many more great causes that have made some changes in personal lives of a great many citizens in the past, but also used to promote many concerns and solutions to those over those many years, while remaining true to all of you. Anyways, enough about that. It's truly time that I maintain and bring out my true identity and mannerisms, and truly put on another suit in order to again work hard and represent the people of Moncton, New Brunswick, but in a different manner, and it's not like I really stopped doing it over all these years. For I've stood for a great many proper causes over all that time, and I still do. Anyways, these are my campaign pledges, if and when I have the privilege of becoming the City of Moncton's mayor in 2026. For I'm taking it upon myself to do the things stated herein, as it relates to exploring, finding, and initiating solutions that will help a great many of our citizens, for all our peoples, and all the true possible future solutions that can help the people in this city. And believe it or not, I'm also doing it for the peoples of the overall tri-community area as well. And you'll comprehend how and why as this goes along. That said, these are my keynote campaign pledges, concerns, and attributes to be addressed for all Moncton citizens during my tenure as mayor of Moncton NB. And for the most part, many of these have been ignored when I personally attempted to deal with these types of situations by a great many city employees over a great many years. First, I make it my pledge that I will primarily serve all the people of the City of Moncton to the best of my extensive abilities, probably more so than any other previous administrative mayor to date, at least as it relates to certain concerning matters. But only time will tell if that's truly the case, if I'm chosen and given that opportunity. And I will execute those efforts with the same level of determinations and integrity that I have shown within all my other fields of expertise and past services that have been rendered during my many other past employment activities, including those other very extensive chief executive officers' duties towards all the not-for-profit activities within this city and even elsewhere. And I'll conduct all my actions towards the betterment of this city's peoples and their lifestyles, whether rich or poor, equally amongst all. In other words, don't expect me to treat you any different if you have wealth or not, for I see you all equally, regardless of ideology, culture, race, or language. I also make it my pledge that I will work with all elected councilors that wish to join in to completely and quickly have the Municipal Water and Sewer Act of Moncton NB in its current state to be completely reevaluated, modernized, modified, and amended, and to bring it to a higher standard as it relates to adhering to our human rights, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and Canadian Bill of Rights. And my primary concerns in doing so is towards all homeowners that are found to be living beneath a certain financial threshold, for it creates undue hardships and so much more. And with further amendments to be addressed in a different and unique manner as it relates to those elderly and disabled individuals that have been threatened by the municipal system to have their water shut off for not promptly paying their overburdened water and sewer cost. And I'll push City Council to amend that Water and Sewer Act and any other revenue act attached to those concerns, but to also include a justified hardship clause, whereby if any household within this city is being placed under undue hardship for whatever the cause, and those individuals can prove the extent of such, that a mechanism will be in place that pushes the city water department or revenue department to deal with all of it in a different manner. may I suggest that you check out the section entitled Fact-Based Achievable Possibilities if Elected, number 1, towards the end of this video, where I'll concisely articulate all of those changes and amendments to be created and then voted upon by City Council upon my being elected to office on May 11th, 2026, where we'll then work toward the amendments to the Municipal Water and Sewer Act or any other revenue act that requires it. Considering the fact that in accordance to the United Nations Declaration of 2010, that water and sanitation, or sewer as many know it, is a human right, and that it should be not only respected, but brought back to a place from which it came. In other words, it was formerly and always part of the reason for the property taxes that our citizens were required to pay, and separated from that, and financial allotments sent back to this city. And really, I don't want to get myself currently started as it relates to any tax structure created by these corporate political types. But I ask, since when do Canadian citizens need to pay for their human rights? For those corporate political types always spend more and more taxpayer dollars, always looking for more from hardworking people, but never truly comprehending the true cost, while wasting greater and greater sums of your tax dollars on a great many things they're not truly needed. Well, I'll tell you all this fact right now, that will not happen under my tenure as mayor, and I'll also work extremely hard within my possible position to find better ways of doing things in this city, but I'll also work with provincial and federal authorities to better all our situations in this city. In other words, I'm not just going to sign MOUs. Furthermore, other communities such as Riverview and Dieppe also cause their residents to pay for water and sewer that's supplied by the City of Moncton, but in the manner they do it truly makes it a disgrace and unequal. For their people pay a fixed rate, and that makes all of this very unjust and rips away any semblance of equality within our combined societies. For I truly believe that the Municipal Water and Sewer Act is a violation of our Canadian Bill of Rights 1960 and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms 1982 and our human rights. However, even if I was the mayor of Moncton, I just can't abolish that municipal law, and even if I convince all the municipal councillors that this course of actions would be best, and they all voted for such, that the province is the ultimate authority when it comes to that. But there are many ways of dealing with all this in a better manner and really helping our peoples. And that's why I started Water Wars NB over 2 decades ago. But apparently, it was being suppressed from getting that message across to the public, and it was not given the credit or support it should have been granted by mainstream media, such as the CBC, CTV, and Global News, as well as those other social media sites, where they were shadow banning those efforts as well. And it doesn't help when a great many lawyers in NB are complicit cowards and don't want to take those types of cases on. Moreover, did you know that there is one province in Canada that does not charge its citizens for water and sewer, and they attain far more in equalization payments from the federal government than we do, and that province is right next door, for it's Quebec. Now I ask you, if the government of Quebec can do it, why can't we? I'll tell you why, because it's a money grab instituted by heartless people that care not for the fact that Canada has the most clean, drinkable water in the world. And I ask, since when do we have to pay for our human rights? For my father-in-law fought in the Second World War and Korean War to secure those types of freedoms for us all, and I stand in his place now to force those issues, because I truly knew him, and if he were here now, all you people would know it. Moreover, my older brother has also served our country for almost 4 decades, first during the FLQ crisis in Quebec, and then in Germany for NATO, and then as a Canadian Armed Forces trainer in Cornwallis, Nova Scotia, before then moving on to becoming an aircraft mechanic at CFB Cold Lake, Alberta, after CFB Cornwallis, Nova Scotia was shuttered. Anyways, the point in that statement is this. My family has always served our communities and country. Even my mother served in her way when she worked as a waitress at the Palace Grill's Imperial Room in downtown Moncton for all those years. And I've done so as well, just in many different manners over the decades. And I say to all those past City of Moncton mayors and councillors, should be thankful that the City of Moncton is not required to pay all those funds received over all those decades back to the residents that have been overburdened with such overly abusive manners of so-called municipal authority for the decades that it has been in effect. For that would point to all of you as being responsible for the hardships and great losses incurred. And what I mean by that is this. Many elderly and disabled people in our society have been forced out of their homes, even after contributing into our greater society for the decades that they have. And not one of those past mayors or councilors has even attempted at making their lives just a little better by bringing in an amendment to those municipal laws as it relates to what I've already revealed. Nice going. Anyhow, if elected to the position of Mayor of Moncton in 2026, and in conjunction with my other colleagues, that I can convince to come on board with this effort, I'll work towards enacting such amendments that will help those people that gave so much for Moncton's past societal affairs. And I'll proudly do it. But we, as a growing society, should also be exploring the possibilities of developing and studying our ability to gain other sources of municipal water reservoirs, such as much cleaner sources from underground aquifers, able to help sustain our growing population needs in the future, very similar to what the McCluskey's NB region has accomplished, with an emphasis on safety and security of those water sources. For we've seen in the past at certain times where aerial herbicide spraying has occurred nearby or in proximity to those two primary sources of surface water supplies for the City of Moncton, known as Turtle Creek and the McCluskey's Road reservoirs, which have had near proximity issues, which is unacceptable. And if I become your mayor in 2026, I'll make certain that municipal laws are written and enacted that allow the RCMP to charge any violators of such to be charged with the harshest of penalties under both municipal and environmental laws. For no one is going to tamper with those required City of Moncton water supplies, for it's a necessity of life. I'll also make it my pledge that I will work to completely and also work diligently to help resolve the homeless issues in our once fair city. And if we can't resolve it, which is very unlikely, we'll still find an appropriate manner of properly dealing with all these matters, without the current manner decreasing in overall abilities. From my previous background in the late 1970s and early 1980s as a young assistant manager of one of Moncton's first transient and homeless shelters, known as the CHC, just prior to the House of Nazareth coming into existence, which turned out to be a product of many other people's efforts in the creation of that other House of Nazareth organization, including my own many very early contributions into that organization's efforts and plights, and later observing the further governments attempting and turning those concerns into a social or homeless-based industry, grants me the insight and experiences to truly help, for I comprehend more than any other politician concerning what is really going on and is at stake. By also indicating my desire in working with all current groups that have and are dedicated to the proper alleviation of such. And that fact also needs to be addressed, for there are times when even now, some of these organizations compete and bitch with each other and do create problems for each other, which will truly stop, for they are all striving to achieve the same goals, some more so than others. But one of the requirements or criteria in gaining any municipal aid, financial or otherwise, will be to work together or not receive any aid at all. For I'm personally tired of witnessing such events, for as far as I'm concerned, good people don't do such things. They work together to find and make real solutions. And that's the way that a dear friend of mine and really my mentor in my youth and the things we accomplished and did as it related to Christian home centers, the House of Nazareth, the Caring Kitchen, and several other not-for-profits a great many years ago. For we knew and seen the real needs in this city and worked hard to achieve all those things. And besides standing as the main Moncton representative, as your mayor, I'll also stand as a real advocate with years of real comprehensions and experience in addressing the fact of finding more municipal capital to support those efforts, as I also stand and work with provincial authorities to help fund the better versions of those to truly get these things achieved. By also finding and eliminating wasteful spending, for that will be conducted by our city staff with my guidance, especially when I fully direct them to do so, And if need be, I'll bring it to City Council, and I'll convince them all to push that through. For there is much of that occurring in this city's organizational structures. It's just no one wants to talk about it or take that fact on. But I will and will redirect some of those funds towards our homeless people's plights, but also towards all our citizens' concerns, including all our small business sector's plights and concerns, through those beneficial, not-for-profit organizations that are present within our city. You know, those organizations that want all those homeless people to withdraw from the current manners of drug abuse. For as a society, we've far surpassed the crisis points that many have indicated a long time ago would transpire, myself included. Here's a great example of one of those municipal wasteful facts. Now understand, I'm pointing this out as an example of one instance, and this should not be completely reflective upon the fact that this person did sit in council for many years and did do a lot of other great things for Moncton. And that person's years of service should not be diminished by this statement. Anyways, years ago, a specific Moncton councillor wanted a memorial sundial placed within the Jones Lake walking area, adjacent to Main Street. And after getting City Council to approve that, and spending $250,000 taxpayer dollars to create such, and then having it placed there, and then that sundial later being vandalized by people that don't respect anything, themselves included. The city spent even more taxpayer dollars to fix it and then replace that, only to have it completely removed later. So tell me, was that any real form of great decision by the people in charge of our municipal system back then? Well, I'll tell you, the answer is no. And those types of situations and useless spendings can't be allowed to take place any longer. Moreover, in relation to the concerns of businesses, whether in the downtown core or elsewhere throughout all of Greater Moncton's business zones, I pledge to support further compassionate police or even eco-based security presence throughout those areas, but to also make certain that those found to not be abiding by the laws are properly dealt with in a manner conducive to a form of restorative justice, which would also give those individuals their one and only opportunity to correct their personal and societal obligations to themselves, but also to the greater overall community. And even though they are misguided and do create a great many despised issues for those of us that just want better for our families, friends, and overall community, there's still someone family members and should be treated with human compassion, for they are our friends, our children, our brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, and are all the children of Almighty God, regardless of ideologies or belief structures, that have been abandoned, misused, and discarded by our society for far too long, but also used by many other people in our societies as a means of keeping themselves employed. And I know that to be true, for I witnessed over all these decades how they turned the negative plights of others into an industry, all designed to keep their systems alive at the expense of others' lives. And believe it or not, they can be helped to find their ways back to us in order to become meaningful members of society. And that must be attempted and achieved before they can't. For we've already heart-wrenchingly lost too many souls that should still be here with us. But we must also prevent other municipalities from sending their homeless peoples to our city, for that is currently taking place. Probably because they see our city as having more in the ways of capacities and organizational structures in order to deal with homelessness, when the fact is we don't. But that's just like corporate political types to attempt to pull that off for once out of sight. It's no longer their problem. But if they continue, that could be reversed to send them back, but deeply explain it to them before we do. It would be far cheaper and would force those other municipalities to deal with their own. You know, there's a big difference between dealing with transient peoples that travel throughout many parts of Canada by their own choice, looking for the best place to live, and those being pushed out of their communities because those corporate political so-called leaders are doing it. It truly seems like they've all lost their way. Well, I'll show them the way. But also comprehend, I'll not discuss many of those other ways of doing those things in this video. But that's also why we need to achieve these realities, for we'll show by example how it's done, and then they can replicate those outcomes for themselves. It's time that we all comprehend as a greater society that we can't allow their pain or uncontrollable addictions to interfere with the fact it's truly affecting all of us, and that they have physical and mental health needs that just can't be ignored any longer. And I'm not talking about supplying any of them with the drugs they are currently abusing, for that is truly a tremendously bad idea. But we also have a justified duty to make certain that everyday hardworking people and their families, and even small businesses, whom are the backbone of our economy and our communities, are protected and feel safe once more from having to endure some negative manners that some homeless individuals perpetrate upon them. Now, understand they're not all like that, and the very few always make it worse for others that are just trying to survive. And that all revolves around perceptions. And talking about perceptions, there seems to be one concerning my abilities is that I cannot speak French. Well, I assure you, that's not true, and although I articulate myself in a better manner using the English language. And to be clear on that subject matter, one of my later pledges revolves around that subject matter. Let me be very clear on that subject matter. I was born in Edmundston NB, moved to Moncton in 1967 at the age of 2, and was raised in a French household. My mother and I, and my remaining siblings were extremely fluent. I attended school from grade 1 to 6 in complete French, and still try to speak it when I can. But there's a much greater heartbreaking story surrounding the reasons why I don't use my abilities much. I can completely understand my friends whom speak French. When they speak with me, I just ask that they slow down so I can really get what they are attempting at saying. Anyways, enough about that for now. Let's get back to where I was. For there are some people that don't even use drugs in any manner, but life and our economy has made it really bad for them. And their circumstances in even attempting at trying to live, if you want to call it that, place them in extreme dire straits. Now, also comprehend this one fact. In many circumstances, we are all just a month or 2 away from being thrown into a situation just like some of them. And that's not a joke. I pledge to pursue a better means of rectifying some sort of low-income housing requirements and strategy in conjunction with the NB and federal governments, as well as those not-for-profit organizations that are currently and best equipped to deal with those manners in a very timely way. For real lives are at stake, and we can no longer allow any person to be permitted to be forced upon the streets, whether in any season, for heat or cold natural conditions are life-altering and do take lives, but only for those that have shown by their actions that they want better for themselves and are determined to change their ways and work hard every day to fight the good fight, to remain clean from those illegal drugs and strive for the betterment of themselves. And I want all of you to comprehend those types of things are happening, and some of those that abuse those types of drugs, as well as abusing themselves, are coming back to us, but only with the help from those other people that are leading the way. And who truly knows, one person that changes their lives and comes back changed for the better, maybe that's one of the people that the world truly needs, for they may find something inside of themselves that truly helps a great many other people. Just like in my case, in a better sustainable prescribed manner, we can do so much better, for we are Canadians and we don't give up on our brothers and sisters, regardless of their age, physical disabilities and mental health issues, or the uncontrollable things that cause them to be thrown into situations that have spiraled out of control. For not all dwellings need be so expensive, but truly adequate for cost-effective human habitations. For the unsightly human disaster of witnessing our brothers and sisters upon our streets has been long looked down upon by many in our community, and to further allow this is not only a human disgrace of dignity of person, but also the disgrace of dignity for our society, but truly shows a lack of real leadership on the part of past and present municipal, provincial, and federal governance bodies, and the individuals that made up those governance bodies in the past. And I know that, to be factual, for none of them ever helped in any of the past organizations that I was involved with, including the others that I helped to create, such as the Maison de Nazareth on Churchill Street. In 1982, the original Caring Kitchen, when it started at St. James Anglican Church on St. George Street, or even the Eco Guards organizations. But even the current City of Moncton's manner of primarily focusing and helping the House of Nazareth, even when they have reduced their overall capacity to help those homeless, while ignoring the plights of the other organizations with limited contributions through the City of Moncton's grant system. It's really not enough. For all those funds need to be directed to those organizations that have the proper plan of getting all these people off of those drugs in one manner or another. And truly think about this. Those other organizations actually do better works. It's truly beyond mind-altering to know those facts, especially when these corporate political types all claim to really care for all peoples. Well, I tell you from my observations and experiences, their actions dictate something different. I also pledge to stand against those individuals that attempt to hinder all these efforts, whether because they're jealous or not, or because they're not the ones that can come up with the proper manners of cooperatively doing all these things, and to guide in the developments of future gainful and purpose-filled projects and programs designed to lift up all individuals that require a true friendship network, whether they be those that I just mentioned, or even those that just require a real kind of caring compassion and real tolerance. Those built on tolerance and acceptance of human factors, knowing that we are all flawed in the sight of God Almighty, but equal under our sight, in accordance with our legal frameworks and constitutional overviews and requirements. But did you know that many of the real reasons that people eventually end up on the streets revolves around many facts, and really the greatest of all is indicated by a great many physicians that have truly studied all those factors. It's because of the loss of real hope in any type of real future for themselves. For many of them, don't have family, friends, and are ignored by the rest of society. And then they turn to drugs to alleviate that pain. And when they do, the actions they take creates all the problems that our society is currently witnessing and having to deal with. On a different subject matter, I also pledge to create an oversight committee of concerned parents that had been previously bullied in their youth and that overcame those scenarios, designated to find real balanced solutions that overcome the vast hatred and bullying being perpetrated upon our children and grandchildren during and after school hours. And to have those best recognized individuals in conjunction with provincial authorities to speak in local school classrooms or auditoriums in order to help alleviate such acts from occurring, thereby hopefully diminishing those types of instances. And to further pursue a better series of volunteer programs and real solutions that may in the future be instituted on a more permanent basis. And much of this will need to be publicly promoted, and that's where public service messages can be utilized through many forms of media sources, such as radio, television, and internet channels. It's truly time for a more interactive way of bringing our messages to the public without appearing to be just a social butterfly or a dictatorship, with a further greater manner of attaining greater public inputs. For that's what true democracy requires. But we also have to deal with another series of issues that's partly related to that bullying or abusive related concerns, which is that there are too many children and young teens that seem to be going missing in our community, and many times they are later found safe and sound. But there seems to be something transpiring that's causing those factors to take place, and it's time that those concerns be further and rightfully addressed, whether by financial means or other manners. And I truly believe that another public educational campaign is needed to be enacted that would help with all these matters. I'm sure that these scenarios can be resolved if properly planned and initiated. And I know what some people in this community would say, that it's not for the City of Moncton to get involved, leave it to the police. Well, as far as I'm concerned, anything that makes our community unsafe or raises great concerns, at least in that manner, must be looked at by all forms of authority. And if we can help in any manner, well then that's what we do. For even financial aids, in paying for more police investigators or other resources and requirements, will surely help. And I'm sure that any parent that's experienced those types of issues would truly appreciate the fact that everything possible is being done. I also pledge to work within my authority as the Mayor of Moncton to discuss and quickly study with the Canadian National Railway or any body or corporation involved The possibility of having the one and only remaining railway track in the center of Moncton, considered for removal upon the completion of a replacement line, bridges, and any other infrastructure required, on the outskirts of the surrounding areas of Moncton's outer perimeter, that may also be continually linked to the other infrastructures, such as the CNR hump yard and so on. But also comprehend this fact: those replacements would require less overall maintenance or cosmetic attributes, for those bridge and street crossings are vastly more expensive for that corporation to maintain in their current state within our city, and those replacements would be far less expensive to conduct and maintain overall, thereby increasing the safety for all our citizens as it relates to the movement of petrol-based or other chemical-based products. They're toxic and volatile and may pose a future problem or safety concern, as was seen in the devastation of Lac Mégantic in Quebec in 2013, and also to alleviate any further traffic and pedestrian concerns in the city's core as our city increases in size, while also pursuing that the land previously used to be remediated where applicable and thereby returned to the city and or used for designated city use, unless determined to be further used in any other rightful manner, such as creating a throughway and expanded upon parking facility for the Avenir Center, or the creation of a historical educational site, showing Moncton's history as a hub terminal for many Canadian National Railway facts, or even a designated area specifically designed to help support such recreational activities, such as the Moncton Car Show, as well as any other types of recreational activities that require such. For we've all seen during those times how a great many people gather up and down Mountain Road, where many of those participants burn rubber but also destroy the road surface in doing so. So we'll give them a dedicated place to do that, and also make it safer for all those that want to see such things, thereby permanently stopping the need to resurface Mountain Road every year or so. For this community has many other road surfaces that need great attention. Moreover, as it relates to remediation of land, this brings up many other concerns as it relates to the old tri-community Petit-Kodiak Riverside City dumps, which are still posing many greater environmental toxic issues. For those dumps were truly never properly dealt with or properly quarantined in any rightful manner. From my extensive studies and knowledge as the lead Eco Guards organization's founder since 1987, as well as my physical explorations and studies of such for many years prior to that, and our public participations in the activist movements in having those dumps to be permanently closed in the late 1980s and early 1990s. But also giving one of our prior mayors of the day, Mr. Leopold Beliveau, a great eco-based solution for the replacement of that landfill in 1987 and 88, which was also given to the provincial government of those days. But anyways, now concerning those former landfills, it would be required that a greater true quarantining be properly conducted, and that those toxic elements still spewing into the river system from those sites be properly addressed. And that was a greater concern prior to the removal of that causeway. But since the so-called US-based riverkeepers had forced that to be prematurely conducted, now the upper river system is in danger of contamination, regardless of what many so-called other environmentalists claim. And all the other efforts in stocking that river system with many species of fish needs to be properly monitored and protected before people start eating those and getting violently sick from any potential toxins, which may be currently taking place within that complete river system anyways. For there's a mystery neurological ailment that's shown up in and around the southeastern region of New Brunswick that physicians can't explain. And I'm not saying that the former city dumps and those toxic elements are the cause. But could they be? For many people all along that river system, and even from the Fundy region, are eating fish found within those water systems. It's an interesting observation and question that our physicians should be asking questions about and even exploring. For a great many toxic elements have been placed at those landfill sites over all those years, prior to that place being permanently closed in 1991. In fact, many of those toxic elements came from the former Westinghouse facility on Enterprise Street, next to the old Von Harvey Boulevard, prior to its expansion. And I know that to be beyond true, For as a child, I lived right next door and witnessed that fact and so much more, like when that corporation used to burn some of their electrical and PCB waste on that property in super near proximity, or should I say, right next to Prince Edward School and former Mayor Gary Wheeler's home. And regardless of the cost, the real environmental concerns that surround those sites cannot be permitted to stand in that manner. For the removal of the Moncton to Riverview Causeway has opened the door to further water and riverside devastations, and really so much more. Now, this brings us to the fact that with the help of our federal and provincial governance bodies, this project would turn out to be a great make-work program, designed to be not only greatly affecting our ecosystems, but our economy as well. Can you envision the extent of true work in creating a 100-foot deep by 10-foot wide encapsulated corrugated steel and concrete perimeter channel around that entire old dump that captures and prevents any toxic element from further contaminating our waters, lands, and skies, and the true benefits for our future city status? And believe it or not, those required works will also help a great many other peoples and communities up and downstream. But also understand this fact: although many strides have been made in addressing Moncton's past flooding issues, whether in the downtown core or elsewhere, such as in and around Jones Lake and Wheeler Boulevard in Moncton. Further to this, more extensive true rectifications and fortifications need to take place in order to protect that past work that's been completed, and that's due to what many believe as it relates to the possible effects from the climate change factors that may or may not occur, but is also linked to mismanagement by former Moncton engineering staff that truly did not have a good handle of an increasing city's infrastructure or the wastewater flow capacity that would be required. Regardless, to be prepared is better than to be caught off guard, and whether or not those effects transpire, we have a duty to make certain that this city and its residents can withstand any possible outcome without much in the manner of costly interferences in overall lifestyle and quality of life for all our residents. Now, in conclusion to this, there's truly so much more to the real vision that I have for not only managing and maintaining Moncton into the future, and if I expanded upon everything currently being stated, I truly believe that all of Moncton's residents would be astonished. But if you really want to know those truths, great insights, and further real possible solutions, may I suggest that you proceed to view a great many videos found on one or even two video platform channels on YouTube and rumble.com, where if you view the Call to Serve Canada series of video works that I've created a playlist for within my campaign channel pages found here: Jeffrey McCluskey for Mayor of Moncton NB 2026 or the Stand on Guard with Me channels, you would gain a clearer comprehension and possibly a great appreciation for the extent of real work that I've conducted over the decades, of course with the help of a great many people. And think about this fact: I've achieved these things with very little in the ways of funds, all wrapped around my desire to truly help the people of my community and its unique physical natural attributes that I do care for in so many ways. And in that extensive and long evaluation of all those things, I've come to a sad but realistic understanding that one thing is true: the Pettit-Kodiak River system is a dying water system with an ever-increasing filling of mud and sediment from the Sheppity Bay area that will eventually inundate that river over time, maybe about a century or a little more, and that's been scientifically monitored and proven, even after that Moncton to Riverview Causeway was removed. And unless something of great significance is attempted, there will be no coming back from that reality. But that's where the vision for this future community comes into play. Anyhow, it will take someone of true understandings in a great many fields of expertise to correct and bring forward a real vision of what Moncton will require to become, and an even better place to thrive, live, and manage our combined municipal affairs. Someone with not only that type of vision, but a vision that all our peoples would be proud to follow and replicate into the future. For one lifetime or mayor's tenure is not enough. For we don't need someone just intent on administering current affairs and taking us nowhere other than down the same old road of inept corporate political affairs that only keep draining our citizens' wallets, that never allow any of us to become what we have always been suppressed from achieving. So now, let's go over what my futurist, real balanced ecological and economic envisionings and desires to achieve are, but in a more concise manner and truly something that would need to be brought to the people for approval upon the completion of those quickly achievable issues first mentioned above. But many of those would take place just by being elected to be the City of Moncton's new mayor in 2026. Anyways, here we go. Fact-based achievable possibilities if elected. Number 1. Amend the Municipal Water and Sewer Act or any other revenue act affiliated or associated to such to include a hardship clause, thereby assisting some of the most financially vulnerable Canadian citizens of our community, primarily in helping and alleviating the burden upon any injured workers, as well as the disabled and elderly homeowners or anyone beneath a financial threshold that would cause undue hardship in their financial abilities in paying unreasonable water and sewer charges when they undergo hardship for whatever unforeseen reasons. That a great many other communities and cities throughout Canada have already put in place. Also amend the Act to forego or remove the necessity of not-for-profit organizations that currently pay for water and sewer, thereby exempting those organizations from paying for water and sewer, especially if those organizations deal or work within the fields of the prevention of poverty. But also amend the Act to remove the abilities, thereby preventing any of the City of Moncton's departments, including the City Revenue Department, from shutting off anyone's water in the event that they cannot pay said water bills. For it's a necessity of life. And also amend the Act so that in the event homeowners refuse or are unable to pay their water and sewer bills, that the city can recuperate said funds at a later time and will receive those said monies when and if the property owner decides to sell their home or upon the sale of the home-based property in question. And also amend the Act to completely not allow for the charging of taxes and or late payment charges in the form of any interest rates or charges upon any homeowner's future, current, prior, or late water and sewer bills. Fact-based, achievable possibilities if elected. Number 2. I'm prepared to also dedicate much of my time within my duties as mayor to find and make real meaningful solutions and changes in the manner of how we deal with the homeless issues in Greater Moncton, and how we really deal with people regardless of stature, position, influence, or difficulty in housing of such individuals, with an emphasis on municipal financial or other supports of those organizations currently conducting those valuable and necessary works, without an overly abusive criteria process, but with a combined municipal and organizational monitoring adherence process, while also assisting in lifting people up through our supported friendship network. Moreover, have city staff adhere, but also participate in sensitivity seminars and undergo such training for a better compliance and overall public experience. Fact-based, achievable possibilities if elected. Number 3. Seek and formulate real solutions as it relates to many of Moncton's municipal infrastructures to better tolerate or endure possible negative climate change effects in the event that they come to fruition. Municipal over-preparedness and better coordinated and supported emergency responses. Supplement and future prospects. Number 3A. Including electric vehicle fire suppression tools or solutions created by me and as part of the Eco Guards organization's overall purpose. For water can't or should not be used in dealing with any type of thermal runaway battery fire. If you want to know more about that fact and those real innovative eco-based solutions that could truly benefit all of Moncton's citizens into the future, check out the playlist for the Eco Guards organization's Snuffers units videos on the rumble.com video platform site stated here. Jeffrey McCluskey for Mayor of Moncton NB 2026. And also the Stand on Guard with Me, Rumble channel. Moreover, this could be a great industry with manufacturing of such devices for fire departments throughout the world. But it will require great investments by those pushing those electric vehicles as a so-called eco-based solution. With that said, the City of Moncton could work in conjunction with the Eco Guards to produce the first fully capable units for its fire departments. But I digress. Fact-based, achievable possibilities if elected. Number 4. Protection of our inland waters, rivers and streams and lands, as well as agricultural sites and recreational areas that border those waterways, by conducting a true quarantining of the former Petit Kodiak Riverside Tri-Community dump sites. Fact-based, achievable possibilities if elected. Number 5. Rail system alterations and redirection and removal of main downtown core railway line, thereby preventing possible negative consequences in the event of any possible devastating rail car accidents in the downtown core. Fact-based, achievable possibilities if elected. Number 6. Standard economical basic low-income or affordable housing, with the participation of provincial and federal government assistance. Similar, but far better than NB housing units and projects that have been locally diminishing over the decades. Supplement and future prospects. Number 6A. Possible future reintroduction of a different causeway linking Moncton, Dieppe, and Riverview at the Wheeler Boulevard termination point at the Moncton and Dieppe Main Street intersection in order to create another crossing point, further linking all three growing communities and creating a better shared tidal bore visual experience with a dedicated observation site linking Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe, and the revitalization and dredging of riverbanks, thereby creating a lakefront downtown core with further abilities in water controls during possible combined rainfall and high tide flooding events, with abilities and eventually revitalization of the complete river system with enhanced circulation systems, tidal power generations, and sweeping sediment properties for the Shepparton Bay, thereby extending the river system's lifespan, as well as a waterway lock system, thereby gaining the ability to bring limited shipbuilding or recreational boating back to Moncton. With the creation of a maritime historical tall ship museum on the site of the old Riverside Tri-Community dumps upon its true quarantining. Can you truly envision the Moncton business sector's abilities to maintain their downtown businesses if Moncton and Riverview had such a complete recreational lake system spanning from the former causeway area throughout the whole downtown core, reaching to the new future causeway previously mentioned? But also truly comprehend this one fact. You were all lied to concerning opening up that former causeway in order to apparently revitalize that dying river system. My God, there are just some people who truly believe they know what they're talking about when it comes to our environment, but really have no clue how the earth truly works, let alone ecosystems. Such a great waste of past taxpayer monies when that former causeway was protecting the upper river system, as well as maintaining many life forms, and was a man-made, thriving ecosystem all on its own. You know, just like the Jones Lake area. And the riverkeepers never tried to open that dam system up, or have it removed. So much for being true so-called riverkeepers. And believe this, the Eco Guard organizations and I called that out back then, when the US-based riverkeepers came to Moncton and then forced the opening of the former Causeway Gate system. And all you people just fell for their uneducated analysis, determinations, and so much more. For they truly had no idea what was sitting right on those riverbanks, and now they know and don't truly comprehend how to really deal with it. If you truly want to know more, check out these YouTube and Rumble.com sites for visual video representations. Jeffrey McCluskey for Mayor of Moncton NB 2026, or the primary site, Stand on Guard with Me. But seek out the series playlist, The Call to Serve Canada, Part 2, Sections A through J. In other words, there are 10 video productions in total, but they are mixed throughout other works for within that combined channel's articulations. That's why a playlist was needed, to make it easier for you to check those out at your leisure. But you never know, You may also enjoy knowing about many other bodies of artistic, music, and a great many other works created within this city that not many of you ever had any idea existed, or the fact that those were being created right here in Moncton. Now, besides those possibilities, it should be clearly understood that being the mayor of any city is a fair bit of work if achieved properly, and would also weigh heavily upon the person taking the responsibility, and the other many duties would still be required to take place. For municipal council and the other representatives would still certainly weigh in on all these subject matters, and that's just part of our democracy. But if they think that several of those solutions and actions could not take place, think again. It only requires, or takes people with great visions for the future and great desires to make all those things come to fruition, as well as a great team of employees and many others, whom would be dedicated to making this city and surrounding communities far better places to live life and raise families. Anyways, in the event that I'm elected to serve as your mayor, I'll do it with honor, integrity, and thankfulness for the opportunity to further serve all of you in our community. And please remember to help keep our society and surroundings clean, and also remember that together we can achieve anything that we desire. So let's do this together, and let's get to work for our brighter futures. Let's just do it. Truthfully, EcoGuard's organization's 1987 to current primary founder and CEO, computer electronics engineer, 1983 to current inventor, physical and digital artist, published author, illustrator, eco-based solution specialist, and autodidactic bioecologist, former Green Party of NB Moncton Center candidate 2014, and longtime Moncton resident. Your possible future mayor, Mr. Jeffrey McCluskey.